Good afternoon. The November 12th meeting of the Escambia Children's Trust is being called to order at 5:30. Please turn off all cell phones or put them on silent mode. If anyone wishes to make public comments, please complete the public comment form located on the table to the left of the podium, and please turn it in to Ms. Alma. At this time, we will proceed with roll call.
Ms. Woods?
Present.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Peden?
Here.
Dr. Northup? Mr. Leonard?
Here.
Ms. Kane is absent. Commissioner May? Ms. White? Judge Williams? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. If everyone has had time to review the agenda, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Agenda has been approved. We are now looking for approval of the minutes. The staff recommends the board approve the minutes of the October 8th, 2024 regular board meeting as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? If not, the minutes are approved. Moving on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Peden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You'll see the financial highlights in your packet. I'd like to thank Ms. Andrews for her work on this as usual. She does a fantastic job keeping everything in order for us. One thing that I want to point out, though, that the Escambia County Trust contract schedule that you'll see at the last line item, a lot of folks think we have a lot of money in the bank, which we do, but a lot of it is allocated with remaining funding requests. So there's $20 million plus that we have allocated. So these are going to programs that we're committed to over the next few years, and we're doing the best we can to be good stewards of this money. So if there's any questions about the financial report, we would like to entertain any questions. Hearing none, we'll file this for audit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peden. Are there any public comments for today's meeting? No public comment. We're moving on to the special presentation. And now we have a special presentation for the board. If the representatives from Y Reads will come forward and introduce themselves, please. Thank you.
Let's turn this on. Okay. Thank you for your service for the youth in our county, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk about our program today. I'm Rebecca Ruby. I'm directing the YMCA Reads program, Y Reads, and this is some of our kids in our program from last year. We are a mentoring and reading remediation program for students in grades K through 4. Mostly we see kids 1st through 4th grade because in kindergarten a lot can happen in terms of reading. We mostly have our principals or teachers refer students to us. We're looking for the lowest 25 percentile of readers in the schools. We deliver services 32 weeks throughout the school year. We usually have a group of 20 on Mondays and Wednesdays and 20 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we also have a 10-week summer program. We have a full summer camp at the Vickery Center, and we invite our current YMCA Reads students to come and receive individualized tutoring, and then we also do a larger summer literacy block for the whole camp. We aim to have 40 students per site. Our goal is in the fall to have 25 and then go up to 40 in January. We are new in some of our schools, so the teachers, the families, the principals are still getting to know us and to trust us, so it takes some time to get those referrals. So this program was started in 2005 by the Florida State Alliance of YMCAs. There's 33 sites throughout the state of Florida, but in Pensacola, We started in 2022 at West Pensacola Elementary with private funding. And then last year we started with ECT with 4 schools, and now we are in 7 schools. These are our partner schools. Last year we were with Ferry Pass, Global Learning, Sherwood, and West Pensacola. And our new schools this year are Oakcrest, O.J. Sims, and Montclair. And I'm sure you already know where these are, but here's a map for you. We're pretty spread out. So our main curriculum is SIPS, Systematic Instruction in Phonics, Phonemic Awareness, and Sight Words. This is a research-based, science of reading backed program. It shows tremendous results. This is what a 3rd grader whose teacher has kind of moved on, who's working on the theme of a text or identifying characters, working with advanced vocabulary. And these are the kids that had some kind of disruption in school, had some kind of block, reading block, that they weren't able to understand that SH makes sh, and there's sight words that don't follow those rules. And this program, this curriculum is wonderful in teaching them that. What we do is we give every kid a placement test to see where they place, and then we break them into small groups based on that. Our full-time site coordinators mainly teach SIPs, and then we have site assistants, volunteers, teaching our other 2 types of curriculum. One is called Kids Lit, and they're diverse books that are read aloud, and kids get to discuss them. They learn cool words, vocabulary words, and comprehension strategies. And then we also have an online platform of leveled books for independent reading that they work on tablets. So depending on where they are, we really differentiate to where each kid is. So what you might see in a day is something a little like this: a small group of kids working on SIPs with our trained coordinator, a small group working on RAS kids with another assistant, a small group of kids working with a volunteer, and then a small group of kids doing their tablet work, doing that RAS kids. And that's also a program that they can work on at home. So they come to us, they get a snack, but they really are an extended school day. It's 2 hours of really hard work that these kids are doing. This is how we are measuring our success. We are getting access to their STAR and FAST scores, STAR for K through 2, FAST for 3rd and 4th grade. We also have SIPS placement tests. We see where they fall in the curriculum, and then every 10 lessons or so, they get a mastery test. We also get end of school year reports and surveys from teachers and parents. So what we want to see is that 75% of our students are showing some improvement in their standardized test scores. We also want 85% of them to be promoted to the next grade level, and I'm sure you all are aware of 3rd grade as a pass-fail grade. And so that's really high stakes for us as a program, and we're really invested in seeing that number. We also want 75% of them to maintain satisfactory school behavior, because we know that often behaviors arise because they're not able to access their academics, or there's a behavior that's happening that's preventing them from progressing. And we know that having someone on your team, having discrete skills taught to you, can really help you and build your confidence. So this is where we ended last year. 82.6% of our students improved in their STAR and FAST scores. 93% passed SIPS mastery tests, and 92% were promoted to the next grade. And in one of our schools, all of our kids were promoted to the next grade, which is huge because they're all in that level 1-2 kids that are really on the cusp of not being able to go to the next grade. So we were very excited about that, about Ferry Pass Elementary. Some other results for us: we recruited and maintained 30 volunteers. They served 3,009 hours. We provided 17 children with eye exams and glasses through a Cox Community Grant. Our very first kid to get that needed bifocals. He was a 4th grader who needed bifocals, and it was just kind of mind-boggling to me that he could go that long. And of course, he has a reading problem. He can't see close up or far away. And that first year that he got those, he got on the honor roll for the very first time. So that was really exciting for us. And then 99% of our parents surveyed felt that their students' reading improved. So we were very happy with our results. And this data is from last year, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this, but our community, a lot of communities base their success on their 3rd grade reading scores. So the state of Florida, they were at 50% of their third graders are reading proficiently. Escambia County was at 44%, and some of our schools from last year were at 40%, 20%, 42%, and 27%. So I just want to show you all, as I'm sure you're aware, of such an opportunity that we have to make a difference with this program and so many of our ECT programs, and I'm so excited to be a part of that. This is one of our volunteers. Another really beautiful result is our volunteers. We have doctors and lawyers. We have a UWF student who's on the soccer team. It's just such a privilege for me to be able to bridge these communities and see different people working with these kids who wouldn't normally get to in a really structured, meaningful way. That's right there is one of our volunteers. She's a retired speech language pathologist, so we're so excited to have her skills. Another thing that we do is family literacy nights. We do that twice a year so that we can have our families come and see some of the work that the kids are working on and buy into our program and give them resources for what they can do at home. This was at Ferry Pass last year. She had all of her students do a turkey literacy theater, and they all performed for the parents. She actually just last week had a family literacy event. She had 99 family members come to Ferry Pass, and she had 32 kids just reading out of the books. And that was a really wonderful moment for the kids too, because they could say that they read in front of a group of 100 people. So that was really confidence building for them. And last, I just want to end with a story about Asia. Asia, she's had a bit of a hard go. She started with us in second grade. Her grandma takes care of her. She doesn't really have a relationship with her parents. She did not want to come to our program. She was kind of running away, trying to get onto the buses. She would cry every time she tried to read. She scored at the 3rd percentile. So 97% of students were doing better than her in her reading. And we got her a book on crystals. She's a crystal person, and that kind of opened the door. And she started working really hard. She started making friends, and she ended the year in the 70th percentile, which is just such a huge jump. And I got to see her read last week at their family literacy event, and she was just, you would never know that she'd had a hard time. She's doing so well. So that's kind of what keeps me inspired, and I hope also a story that you all can keep with you about some of the work that you're doing with this.
Yeah, were you going to say something? No. Lindsay, okay. Yes. And people that know me know that YMCA is near and dear to my heart because I'm a YMCA kid. My father worked there for over 50 years. And YMCA has also been more than just a gym and a pool, and they've been making a difference in the community. And I'm just so elated and happy to see that the Y Reads program is there. And also that it's also serving District 3, which is one of our most needed districts in Global, and Montclair and Oakcrest are in my district. So I'm so thankful for the job that you're doing there as well. But I do have a question. I had a question of how many students from the regular school year take advantage of the summer program? Are there a lot of overlap?
Not many. We've strategized what way can we get to these kids. We started talking to navigators. How can we get parents to transport the kids to the Vickery Center? We gave them a huge discount to be part of the summer camp. And a lot of these kids would never get the opportunity to come swim every day at summer and get free reading tutoring. So we had about 13 kids from our existing program. But we also served so many kids already in the camp, and these were also kids in need, just not the same. I'm looking to strategize how to better keep that continuity and prevent that summer slide for our current kids.
Yeah, is transportation an issue?
It's transportation, definitely. Cost is not, because it's practically free what we gave them, so it's just transportation. If you live at Global and you're taking, or near Global Learning, and you're taking the bus every day to get to the Vickery Center, is a hardship. I will say the camp is from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., so there's a lot of opportunity. I think it's just a barrier to parents.
You have one site during the summer. How many sites do you have during the summer? Just one?
Just one.
Okay. Thank you. Great job.
Thanks.
I did have one question. The sessions, you said they are 2 hours in there. Are they after-school sessions?
Yes, they're after school. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hold on.
Rebecca.
Got, you did?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to tell her thank you.
So moving on, thank you again. Moving on to the business portion. Is that where we are? Lindsay, would you like to speak on the National Flight Academy sole source? Yep.
Okay. So in your packets, there's actually a revised, or there's original grant and a revised grant. We had met with, or received our first sole source request from the National Flight Academy, which would be working in conjunction with the school district to identify youth anywhere from 7th to 12th grade at different schools on a rotating basis to come and experience a week-long camp at the National Flight Academy. They were looking at statistically only about 2% of the children that are in Escambia County actually participate in this. So this would be not a summer camp, this would be something during the school year, and they're looking to engage students that may not be the most high performer, but some that need some extra boosts potentially. Maybe we call them like on the bubble kind of kids. They could go either way, but certainly looking at engaging students around STEM in a completely different immersive environment. When we went back and looked at it, the original grant proposal, we asked them to take a look at the budget again because we didn't feel like we could support all of it based on what we have committed and what we still have in the bank, but what that would still look like to offer that opportunity. So they've come back in and revised their budget. They're looking at it for a week out of the month over a 7-month period of time. So rotating between 7, potentially 8 different schools, but bringing students in. It needs to be the same grade level, so let's be clear about that. We can't, per week that they offer this. They've also looked at transportation being removed as a barrier, and mainly their costs are really around staffing, around supplies, food, and transportation for our kids. We have brought this to our program committee, and they agreed to push it forward to the full board for a vote. I also have Mr. Everly here from the Flight Academy, so as you guys look at this, have any questions, he has been working with the school district since our program committee meeting, and may have some additional information as well.
So do we need to have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
just a quick question. So Lindsay, most of it is probably caught up mainly in just about $280,000 in salaries and benefits is
This
what
would
is-
be, it is a 24-hour facility. You have to have a wake staff for that. That's a big part of it. They also have nursing services, security, those kind of things to make sure that our kids are secure. So staffing is going to be a heavy cost for this particular program.
So and that's fine, absolutely. I missed the program meeting. So it's about $280,000 in personnel and benefits, and then contracted labor, the $57,000, so $280. So you're looking at whatever, $320, $330. What's the contract that other professional services? Is that counseling or what is that?
If you look on, it's the very last page
Okay,
of the revised grant application. It talks about the professional services and contract labor. That's your nursing services, your security, rental vehicle, and then, of course, linens for cleanliness. Mr. Everly is also approached if y'all have any direct questions for him. But that's the explanation around the cost for those.
Okay. And I guess my final question, because I am a big supporter of it. How are we going to, I recognize we're going to identify 7 schools, or how many schools are we identifying?
This proposal has 7 schools in it for one week out of the month, we're talking about school year, right? We can look at, well, I think about too, so Commissioner May, one of the schools that is not included would be probably Warrington Middle. I definitely think that needs to be included as well. There's a coordination part of that. And we've talked about this. What if you didn't get enough kids at one school? Could you pull in another middle school, same grade level, right, to do that? And I think there's opportunities for that as well. So did you want to speak to?
And we're, and he's, well, not to you, Lindsay, thank you for being here. And so we are making sure that the criteria are for the low socioeconomic kids as well, correct? Or is that the
Commissioner,
target?
yes, sir. In working with the school district to identify, the appropriate population of students that are going to benefit the most, that is absolutely one of the criteria that we're taking into account based on where those students are. So, and to Lindsay's point on number of students, we recognize that in most of the middle schools, it may be a challenge to capture a group of 36 to 42. And so, our ability to combine two different middle schools together is absolutely an easy thing. And so the 7 weeks out of the school year, really, we're going to cater to exactly what the school district wants us to do in terms of which population and whether it's a high school, whether it's a middle school, week to week. And so the ability to have that selectivity is kind of built into what we do as a matter of routine.
And so, and to that point, and obviously support my friends at the school district, are charter schools and private schools eligible for this service as well?
This is purely for Escambia County Public Schools at the moment. And so, to your point on the Warrenton, that's something we can absolutely, fold in as long as the Children's Trust doesn't have a problem with it. The kind of the genesis of this program was recognizing that the Flight Academy programming, we were underrepresented by the number of students from Escambia County. So this is just an opportunity to try and get more students exposed on an annual basis to what we have to offer and provide some of those insights.
Okay, yeah, and I guess, Lindsay, I would yield that question to you and council. Would it make a kid ineligible if he went to DT or SL Jones or any of the other private or charter schools? Would they still be eligible for these services?
I think as long as they hit our qualifiers for it, which we have in contract, right? The lower socioeconomic, have these academic challenges and other barriers, that should not prohibit them. This original pilot, though, was done as a partnership with the Escambia Public Schools. But I would say that's definitely something for us to look at as we go forward as well. What does that look at like? What other schools do we have that could benefit from it? Is it an opportunity? It's all cost when it comes down to it, though, that we've got to select and determine, what we can afford and what we cannot. And then what the outcomes are like and the benefits to our partner if we decide to fund this. Is this something that's working for them as well? We don't know this. They haven't done it before, not like this. So this will be new. This will be new and an opportunistic program for our kids that's a little bit different than just some of our needs-based services.
Yeah, I mean, and to my point, I mean, Step Up for Children, I mean, some of our most vulnerable populations are in private schools, in charter schools, and so I would not want that. To me, if we could not exclude anybody and include everybody, understanding that, it's a partnership with the district, but it's a partnership with all children, I think that would be important because for me, I don't want to pay for Lewin May children or Stephanie White's children to go to the academy. We can pay for ourselves. I do want to pay for those children who are most at risk and have the least opportunity to attend. And there's a large segment of the population that are not necessarily going to traditional schools. I mean, I have Jacqueline Harris. I mean, there are a lot of other schools that are really providing those services. So I don't know if that can be included. I mean, if those kids can be eligible, I'm not saying that they have to.
Okay, so here's the deal with the school district. They have someone running point on this there. The Flight Academy can't go through and screen these kids and recruit these kids. Otherwise, that would have already happened. So when we have all of these scattered sites, that's going to, what I call scattered sites, schools throughout the whole county, we're going to need to look at that, and that would be something different than what's proposed here. Doesn't mean it's not a possibility, but there's going to have to be somebody That's the holder of that outside of who the district's already appointed this to, that's one of their staff members. So that will take some thoughtfulness.
Well, that's why we're here.
and, You know, creativity around how we could potentially get that done and make sure that it's full. Because the other thing is, if you don't have at least this 36 to 42 kids, they have staff committed. And so when you start creating that variable income for staff, we know what that also looks like. So there's some
Understood. I
things
mean,
we
I
need
don't
to
know, I
work
don't know
through.
the logistics of it, but I do know the eligibility of it, that all kids
Yeah,
that live in Escambia County.
Yeah.
If it's a thought, if it costs money to hire somebody, it just costs money. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because it costs money to bring about those deliverables. So
Yeah.
I'm throwing it out to see if there is a possibility.
Well,
I mean, because there is
well, I
a
would say
segment.
nothing that we have precludes from that, but that's just not part of the proposal of this pilot and where we start.
Understood. And my question was just, could it be included? Is it a possibility? I mean, so we hadn't voted on it yet, so, I mean, that's my question.
That would be up to y'all, Pat.
Well, so I'm certainly not in any way, shape, or form looking to exclude any child that is in Escambia County. I think it really boils down to the logistics of it and trying to get that critical mass of 36 to 42 kids and being able to get them, register them, and get them into the program. Part of the proposal is, you know, the Flight Academy is going to provide the transportation both from the home school to the academy, transportation during the week, and then back to the school where they originated from. I will call it a challenge, not a problem, to figure out some of those other students that maybe are not in the traditional schools in Escambia County. But I'm certainly willing to have that conversation. But Lindsay, you make a great point. We don't have enough manpower to be able to run point to the various different institutions, but certainly not opposed to trying to figure out if there's a way forward on that.
I guess from a practical viewpoint for me, I'm not expecting for people to run point. Asking simply if it can be eligible and opportunity. I mean, those parents may have to provide their own transportation. They may have to sign up like a kid that's coming from New York to be a part of the program, but to not exclude them. I guess my question is, can they be included?
From my perspective, as long as the age group is the same, there's certainly no reason, as long as there's not a barrier with the trust.
No, cool. That's to my point.
Yeah, one quick question. You said 7 schools. Have they been identified, or is that just? That's a
We've
work
had
in
some
progress?
initial discussions with the person we've been speaking with at the county in terms of identifying some schools. The 7, it's really 7 weeks, and so there's some preliminary schools, some high schools that have been identified, but nothing is written in stone. So it's certainly a starting point. But we've started looking at high school populations, and then pairing up middle schools that are somewhat close together to make that transportation problem a little bit smoother.
Another question I have, Pat, and for the board as well, is we've had a number of programs that we've funded who have not been able to meet their numbers of involved kids. And that would be the missed opportunity I would see, and would be something I would think both for your organization, the trust, the school system, others to look at. And I could see a week of the month coming up in the future, and we've invited 42 students, and yet we get 32 that show up. And how are we going to then, on relatively short time frame, because I do think this is such an incredible and unique opportunity. I had the opportunity just Monday to go out and tour the Naval Museum for the first time with a retired Navy chief, very good friend of mine and all, and we looked at some of the accommodations out there and all that the Flight Academy uses, and it was phenomenal. It was something just for us to have available in this community is outstanding, and that would be the thing that I would find disappointing if we approve it, we fund it, we have all this, we make the opportunities available, and then knowing that just because a child is invited, that then depends on the family approving it, being able to make arrangements, et cetera, and would be surprised if we invite 42 and you get 42, and how that we could, as we get closer and closer to the actual time of this activity each week of the month, that we do everything possible, to Commissioner May's point and all, that there are lots of children out there that would benefit from this. Eligibility could be established, et cetera, but that we really have a mechanism in place to do everything we can to fill all of those 42 slots every week of the month when that happens.
And sir, that's a valid concern for sure. We see that even with some of our summer programs. But what we're going to try and do with those schools, that when we come up with the schedule of which school is going to go, which month, is my staff is going to go to that school and work with that principal or whoever the appropriate point of contact is, and with the parents. And we'll to your point, if a student backs out or is sick 2 days before, it may be a challenge to get another student registered to fill that slot. But I would venture to say that the effort was there. If there were 42 students identified from that particular school to go that week, there's always a possibility of short-term substitutions depending on the demand. And my hope is not a strategy, but I'll tell you, if we can get it going, that I think the demand for each school to want to send students to the program, if we're successful and carry on to a second year, then you're going to have a lot of folks standing by just hoping to get in when it's their middle school or high school's term to come the following year. So it's a legitimate concern, and one that we have to dig into the details a little bit, because there is a little bit of lead up admin work in terms of getting parental permission and some of those basic preliminary screening things done.
So I wanted to make sure that I told Captain Everly, thank you. Thank you for working on this as diligently as you have. And Meredith, I wanted you to know that I took myself out of the equation quite some time ago, so he's been working with Ms. Payne and some of the other members of our staff there at the school district. One of the things that struck me early on, and then more importantly tonight, is when we talked about the participation at the National Flight Academy. One thing that's glaring to me is 98% of students that have participated at the National Flight Academy, which is right here in our hometown, 98% of them are from somewhere else. So I think, this is my opinion, I think this is a really good starting point. From a school district standpoint, the only thing that we can control are those 52 sites or centers that are right here, part of our school district. We would certainly work, try to facilitate and assist our charter school members. Warrenton Preparatory Academy, which was one of those, some of the others, we would work with them, but the only thing we can actually control is those that we have in our district. But it's a shame that only 2% of the students come from Escambia County. You say you had the opportunity to go out there. One of the things that I know that we've been working on from a school district standpoint is trying to get more participation out of our elementary school students for the STAR-based program. I think we've been fairly successful at that and will continue to do so. But I had the opportunity, and I know maybe perhaps some of you also had this opportunity just a couple of weeks ago, to go out to the Naval Air Station for the Blue Angel and the Thunderbird Air Show. We took right at 1,000 students from Escambia County, and to see their faces and to see the things that they were able to enjoy just in a 6-7 hour period of time, I can't imagine what type of impact a full week program would have. So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm glad I've stayed out of it, so tonight I can vote. But thank you to you, Captain Everly, and to your people.
Yes, sir, my pleasure.
No, Superintendent, I just want to comment. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to go out with Jack Fetterman and Peter Booth to the Flight Academy, and I agree with you, Superintendent. I didn't realize it was only 2%, but I mean, it's a great experience. And I mean, so I think my passion is for every child that lives. I mean, it's two things. I think that a child that lives in Escambia County should be able to swim because we're surrounded by water. And I think they should understand aviation because we're the cradle of Navy aviation. And so, I mean, I was in awe. You know, I've been there 3 times, and it was in awe what you guys do. And so I think, you know, my questions and my passion is simply that I want a child, you know, I don't care if he goes to private school, public school, charter school, I want an opportunity for every child to be able to experience the great work that you guys are doing.
May I have a motion?
Well, I have a question just about the resolution before we address that. Is that what we're going to address next, Madam Chair?
We needed a motion first to discuss and vote.
All right. Well, maybe out of order, but here's my question, and this is for staff, not for you, sir. The copy of the, if I'm reading it right, the copy of the resolution is 2420. It appears to have the, I guess, at least my copy, the original grant application amount, but I know we have a revised grant application with a lesser amount. We discussed that previously, so I just wanted to address the language that, or the final numbers that are in the 2024-20 resolution. Do they reflect the original grant application or the revised amount?
The revised grant has 1.19, and the resolution has 2547.
Thank you for that catch. That is my error. When I pulled it, I looked at the original instead of the revised, so we will correct that and have it signed.
Chair, I have one more question. Mr. Everly, I know that I looked a while back for my own kids to go, and there were wait lists already. So do you find that there's wait lists often for your programs?
So depending on the weeks in the summertime, there absolutely can be a higher demand in those peak weeks. So think second week of June through the last week of July. So kids getting out of school late May, early June, and then going back and parents not wanting to be gone. So there, waitlisting, again, presents a challenge in terms of having folks on standby. But as of right now, shouldn't have a problem.
Well, that's what I was asking, that to show that I think we'll be easily able to get 40, the 40
I would-
number. I mean, I think you'll have a huge wait list, because I mean,
I
there's
would
even
think
wait
so.
lists now.
Once
And for
a student
free
comes
trip.
back, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt you. My
Sorry, and
apologies.
for a free, for basically a free time to go, I think,
Correct.
and they get to miss school for a week. I mean, let's be real. So I think, I don't think it'll be a problem to get the 40.
No, I would agree with you, and I would say that, yes, they're out of the formal curriculum of Escambia County, but we got a pretty well-proven track record of, incrementally increasing retention and knowledge in a bunch of STEM areas, and also giving them some tangible experiences that will help them trigger and think, hey, if I, buckle down and do a little bit better, maybe I have more opportunities available to me, and provide them some of those, options in life, depending on the age group that we're talking about.
And Stephanie, I was impressed when meeting with Lindsay, that even though they're missing school, this is like an enhanced, on steroid, educational opportunity for those children.
Which is probably why the staff cost is high, because you're not just getting a camp counselor.
No,
You're
yeah,
getting really qualified, smart people doing.
For all of our, we have different, flavors of facilitators, so the instructors. And so 2 flavors. One are usually retired military aviators that do that operations officer role. And the other ones, we hire, some are retired college professors, teachers. We hire a lot of Escambia County teachers during the summertime that want to work for us. So it's a pretty high quality individual delivering some of that educational content.
So we have a recommendation from the program committee to approve the resolution 2024-20, allowing the executive director to begin contract negotiations with the National Flight Academy for services as listed in the updated sole source funding application as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved with the amendment brought forth by the judge as far as to the amount.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the CARE. Congratulations, thank you. Next on the agenda is the CARE micro grants. Lindsay?
Yes. So in your packet, we have a breakout of our mini grant initiative. So we have been looking at some of those recaptured dollars. Let me show you, it's in the this PowerPoint right here. If you look to, it starts right here, ECT Cares. Talks about community access, resilience, and empowerment. Some of the things that we have garnered from our counterparts throughout the state are really looking at opportunities to engage nonprofits, civic and community organizations in funding with the local trusts. That is a starting place, but also sometimes you just need money for one thing, not necessarily for long-term programming as a match. And I will give full credit to Deborah Ray on the acronym. It is all her, not me. I'll know I'm not that creative. But really looking at microgrant opportunities for people in our community to apply. It's a one-year grant. It would not be anything longer than that. It would be for a very specific purpose that fits within this CARE framework, which is community, like we said, with an area of focus that we have broken down around strengthening and supporting communities by fostering unity and collaboration. Access, increasing access to essential services, resources, and opportunities for underserved or marginalized populations. Resilience, building resilience in communities to withstand social, economic, and environmental challenges. And empowerment, empower individuals and communities to take control of their futures. There's a variety of different categories that we can fit underneath this. Some of these, when we were looking at it, was not only about what we've been hearing here as public outcry related to community violence and needing some support around that, but also in those meetings that we've been able to host with a lot of local nonprofits that have either been seeking funding for the trust, feel that they would like to do a sole source initiative, but they really aren't a sole source, really looking at what those needs are. So some of the things that we've been able to see are there are nonprofits that are doing really great work, but they need some support in the form of stuff. And I don't say that lightly, but with technology the way that it is these days, a really great example is our homeless shelter and transitional shelter serving families has a room that has no computers, no desks, no anything for these children that are residing in this particular shelter to come in and have a quiet place to do homework and those families to work with them, or even tutoring for that matter. That's just one example. We've had some that have, along the Impact 100 lines, if you will, we just need a van. We've got the program, but we need a working van that's not 20 years old that we can transport these kids. Or our van only holds 9 people and we need a 15 passenger because our program is growing. There are things like that that our nonprofits are experiencing around stuff. Some of that can even be food and basic supplies that families might need that are not necessarily donatable type of things too. So this, I think, is a really great framework for us to also introduce nonprofits that have been working on private funds to what it means to be in a government contract with reimbursement. We know that we've had a steep ramp for some of our nonprofits that have come on that have been smaller. Some of them just having a challenge balancing their full-time job with their part-time job, working with kids, and meeting the letter of what they're doing. And some of them are growing by leaps and bounds, and still trying to juggle all of that. So this could be something that would help some of our current funded entities, but also could definitely help those that are not, that might be able to apply in the future. But it would at least give us some sort of track record with them around connectivity, and also around addressing some of those most needs, or those kind of needs that these nonprofits are seeing, but currently do not have funding to cover. And it would definitely be gap services or gap needs.
So when you're talking about the mini grants, are we looking at a max amount and a max overall annually? So we're looking at the 500,000?
Yes, so let's talk about that for a minute. So I met with Tammy today and we kind of sat down looking at our numbers. So we've done a rolling budget for 5 years. We needed to look at what this looked like going forward if funding National Flight Academy, and what that looked like. So when we're going to talk a little bit more also not just about National Flight Academy, but also what we need to consider for year 3 OST funds, because we do have a gap there that we're going to need to address. And that would be in the form of March to May or summer programming for year 3. so that our programs don't cut off mid-year of '26. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. But Tammy's run some really great projections. It looks like if we could have anywhere from around $300,000 for new one-time grants. We were looking at 500,000 before. I think with when we kind of looked at this and what we need to do around OST for at least to get us through that 25, 26 year, 300,000 would be a great starting place, and then we can move up to 500,000 in the years forward. And also, if we recapture dollars, somebody turns in a contract, or if we like the way this is going and want to invest more of our dollars there, we can certainly do that too. So there's options for us. We were saying no more than 50,000 because, first of all, we want to keep it a smaller, a manageable amount, but also some of the asks that we got and also some of the nonprofits that were sharing their needs, they usually fell around that range. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be lower. It depends on how many you want to fund. If you have in your mind, we would like to fund 10 new organizations, or we just want it to go up to 300,000. It may not even be that somebody needs 50,000. They might just need 20, and that frees up some dollars that we can look at all the applications that we get and see what we can balance that way.
But these don't have to be, these can be new organizations who are not already receiving any grant funds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Lindsay, is it an at all accurate summation to dumb it down for my benefit to using the model that has existed and does exist already, which is the Impact 100 type things where they make larger grants, but it's a thing like that, that they are generally one-time grants for purposes to facilitate some organizations starting the provision of services, but most of them are organizations already providing services, but it's to be able to continue those services or to expand them. But again, the concept being they're one-time grants for them to meet a specific need that would be brought to us in order to request. What would the application process look like? Would it be they would bring things to us, or?
Yes, within these categories. So we've already built this kind of out, what this would look like. It would be in the SAMA system. So they would have to go through that qualification process, like all of our other grantees would do on that. And then they would select which CARE they would fall up under, and then be able to do a shorter narrative around what their needs are, their mission, what the project would be, and the budget surrounding that. So we don't want it to be, because it's a one-time grant, this is not a 3-year RFP where we're talking, millions of dollars. We're talking a short one-time one that we can work with them through. So we recognize that some of them may be new startups, some of them may be doing this voluntarily, but need money to, support whatever initiatives they have going on. So it would be the opportunity for them to have a starting place, getting used to our system, as well as how you use that for reimbursement. There's going to be a lot of those kind of things that they need to overcome, but would set them up for success later on if they do have a great program that they need funding for and that fits within some of our active RFPs. They would be eligible, and we would already be able to say we've worked with them and we know that they've done the right thing with the money. But yes, you didn't dumb it down. Sort of like an Impact 100, but we're not going to give it out on a Sunday, though. I won't be coming on a Sunday, just so you know. And children's services as well. So I love the vets and the dogs ones, but I don't think we can fund those. So the decision that we need to make is what you want your threshold to be, and if you want to move forward with doing a micro grant process.
So you say we have about possibly around 300,000, and your recommendation is 50,000, up to 50,000?
Yes.
So that would be, if everyone asks for 50, that would only be 6 grants.
Yes. But we can always lower it if we want more.
Lindsay, I see in the minutes on the agenda, individual and organizations. Are you looking for different for individuals versus organizations? Where it says it's highlighted in yellow.
On the agenda?
It's on the agenda. It was just on mine, didn't it?
Per individual or organization.
Per individual organization.
It should
Well,
be,
it could be an individual person applying for it if
it could be, but they would be an organization.
so we can just.
So we're gonna scratch
We
it,
could just
individual,
scratch
just
that,
put
organization.
organization? Just scratch in individual, okay.
We're actually not
question.
even going to need a resolution tonight on this because each individual one that applies would take its own, it would have its own resolution. So tonight it's just the dollar amounts.
I make a motion to approve this, to not to exceed $50,000 per organization, not to exceed $300,000 overall annually.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
I've got a question. How can we, how-
Overall,
Per grant, 300,000.
how do we fine tune these where it's 100% going towards what's needed and let, maybe not on salaries or staff paying for this? It's got to be, they're small enough, well, we don't need 40% going for staff and then, you know, it's, so how do you work that through
I
that?
think we can prescribe that through the application process, what we would qualify as going for this. So if you're going for a van, obviously, there would not be staff cost around that.
Right, right.
But if you had a community collaborative that you needed someone to pull together to address some of the community violence, bringing together churches or civic organizations to do something, you might have that. But we would need them to be able to do in their narrative, their budget narrative, exactly what that position is and how it ties back to those core indicators and the outcomes that they are going to be presenting as part of that application.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So the motion passes. So we are moving on to Resolution 2024-19. Ms. Tammy?
Yes, back in March, we brought to you guys the contract for legal services of North Florida. And between me and Lindsay transitioning, we missed doing the resolution at the time of that meeting. So we did, it was voted on, it was approved by you guys. They have signed a contract, but we're just ratifying the resolution back to that date.
May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
That's it.
Any discussion?
For clarification, I've got a date of May 1, 2024, and then duly adopted on the 12th of November, 2024. And for renewal or reconsideration, will this come up again in May of 2025 or November of 2025 or neither or?
So their contract starts on May 1st. So we brought it in March. We brought it to the board in March. So it'll probably come back to you guys again March or April for another May renewal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. One abstain. Motion passes. Ms. Lindsay, you have to cover some,
Yes, wanted to make sure, I know I shared this with our program committee, but wanted you all to hear that we were able to successfully have our focus group related to community violence. It was a very impactful day. Ms. Ray had done a beautiful PowerPoint with like 17 questions, and we asked the first one, and 2 hours later, we had answered all of them, but really, the conversation was so rich that we didn't have to ask any more questions. There was definitely unity. There was not only community providers, school district personnel, there was also some of our providers, law enforcement, and others that we have not contracted with, but are definitely those in the community that are working specifically in our areas that are experiencing a lot of community violence. What I will tell you is they left with telling Mr. Williams that the cell phones need to come out of those schools. They were very adamant about that. His response back also was, you need to make sure these parents understand and they don't come after us if we make that decision. But I know that that's been something that we've talked about probably in smaller circles and has certainly been a part of the school district meeting. But that group was very adamant that that be something that changes. They also talked about how they've all been in the same room before and had this same conversation, and they're tired of no action around that. They talked about bringing people to the table with lived experience to work with some of our most challenged youth, but also to be integrated into the community and breaking up some of those situations rather than turning their head the other way. So really looking at mentorship. I know we look at this from a lens a lot of time with children's services of a level 2 background screened person. However, those people are not the ones that our youth are going to be listening to. They really want some people that have lived experience, whether that's male or female, working with some of our youth to keep them out of trouble. So more to come on that. But I wanted to let you know, we've had these people come to the podium and we've brought them to the table for the discussion. So we'll continue to look at that. If they can organize, I think they could apply for one of these care opportunities too, to look at that. But there may be groups that are already organized doing this already, and they just needed a place to come together. So. And Mr. Williams was there with us, so you can certainly pitch in anything that you felt from that meeting, but
No,
it was a
and-
powerful meeting, for sure.
And yeah, it was a powerful meeting, and I just wanted to make sure that the community knew the stance. I'm not speaking for the superintendent, but we are looking strongly at the cell phones in the school system. I think the superintendent has got a couple of task force and groups that are looking into that. And I just wanted the community to know that if I go forward with it, we go forward with it. The community outcry, my kid needs their cell phone, and we can show all of the statistical data where cell phones is hurting academics and attendance and discipline problems. We just want the buy-in from the community, and everyone there, as you said they would support it. Many of them had testimonies of themselves of the use of cell phones, their personal children and grandchildren. So it was a great meeting, and we need to follow up on it also with the gun violence. I really hope we can do a roundup. I know that's might not solve the problem, but it might make a dent in it. So it was a good meeting and good focus group.
Yes, okay. Any other questions about the focus group? We'll keep you guys posted on that. The final thing is our year 3 OST. Out of school time, we're going to need to be renewing those again March 1st. Remember, these are off cycle. So we have looked at this. We'll be going into year 3, which would be the end of our commitment, if you will, to that RFP. And we'll be looking to put out another RFP, hopefully in 2026. But we do need to address the fact that we're providing out of school time care for kids. And we don't want to terminate that in the middle of a school semester. So we need to look at the path forward around that and decide which way you all want to go. We're at the place now where we're going to need to start preparing those contracts and making sure that we have all the budgets that we are needing to evaluate and outcomes. So we are in the middle of preparing an out-of-school time renewal report for you all. And way we're looking at that is asking them to build their 12-month budget, but then also asking them to do March to May, end of May, which would get you through the school year. And then we do have summer programming that our providers, not all of them, but a lot of them provide, and what that would look like for those 2 months. So that would get us through the school year and then summer, which would be consistent. And then if they were not refunded or we didn't do out of school time, it would be a natural break there, July 31st, and then go into a new school year. Or if we do decide to put an RFP out again for OST, and we had some of our providers that reapplied and wanted to do it for another 3 years, that we qualified, there would be no break in service there as well. So it serves 2 purposes. I did have Tammy, when I was talking to you guys about that rolling budget, really look at that to see, did we have the money to do that and what it looked like? And it looks like we will be okay with bringing in the one-time grants and then also National Flight Academy. So we look at that year over year. We just would not, we would kind of look at that a little differently for new grants coming in. So like extra money, if you will, that we would have to do a new ongoing initiative would need to wait another year or so. And I can share this with you all. It was just fresh off the press today when we were going through it.
So Lindsay, for clarification, the 24-25 school year that we're currently in, if we take it to the end of said school year, the end of May, and then we take the summer programs through the end of July, that will complete the second year of our cycle or the third year of our cycle?
The second year of our cycle will end February 28th of 2025. So our year 3 contracts would start March 1st of
Okay.
25 and then go to February 28th of 26.
Okay,
So what we're looking to do is not end it in the middle of 26. We need to extend it to May at a minimum, would be my recommendation.
of
And then
2026.
So our contracts that we are preparing and getting ready to execute are going to be 25, 26.
Okay.
But we'd like to have a picture of that. So what we've done is Tammy's been able to look at like trend and what they've had, kind of give us a guesstimate of where we are to get us to the end of May and then also summer to provide that going forward. And so we'll be able to do that.
Do you have a suggestion of whether we make the quote adjustment or whatever you want to phrase it for that 4-month period from March through the end of May, and then the 2 months of doing that this year to 25, and then start the new third year for each of these programs, kind of more flowing with the school year, or wait until 25, 26 to do it? Somewhere it sounds like we've got about a 2 to 4 month gap that we're going to have to make up, that we could either potentially do it this year
Or the
and
following
make it up,
year.
or do it the following year. Is that,
But we've already
It may
approved
be
those
either way.
budgets though, right? The current contracts are already written, right?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Tori.
The 2025 contracts have already been approved and written. Is that correct?
No.
So like-
No,
I mean, 2020, so we're in 2024. So the,
We're in, sorry, we're in 24, 25. We're
Yeah.
talking about contracts for
I know,
25,
but he's
26.
asking, can we extend 25, like 24 to 25, but we've
Mm-hmm.
already, those contracts have already been written.
well, the contracts have been, but my thinking or my question, I guess, as much as anything, is somewhere we're going to have about a 4-month
Yes.
gap contract with all of these programs, whether they're the year that we know we're going to refund them, i.e. the 24, 25, and we just go ahead and know that we're funding those programs, and we're going to just go ahead and contract so that we add the 2 to 4 month extension on there, or we wait until next year and do it. But somewhere we're going to almost have to have little mini contracts, although I guess the benefit of doing it next year, instead of it being a 12-month contract, we could make it a 15-month contract or
Correct.
something. Okay.
But we could do it either way to answer your question. We could do an amendment, I'm guessing, Meredith, an extension of their current contract. We would still need the dollars, though, so we know what that looked like. And then we could start a new contract in August and then end it July 31st on the following year. I think you could do it either way. But this would get us just one contract. We wouldn't have to go through multiple steps. This would do just one contract.
So
Do we need to vote on anything tonight?
are you just discussing?
No, I think we need some direction
I
on,
would-
and probably a vote on whether you want to do that through May or you want to include the summer months.
I think the summer months.
Yeah, I make a motion that we include it through the summer months, the summer programming.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, wait,
Aye.
Who's second?
David.
David Peters.
Eden,
So that motion passes.
not me.
So moving on to operations, annual report.
We're currently working on the annual report, so as you guys know, that has to be on our website by December 31st. And so that will also pull in, just so you know, I know you've seen the OST report, you've seen the mental health renewal report, but we're going to be updating that all the way through. And then also our sole source contracts, you're going to be able to see the outcomes related to that as well. So Rick and Deborah have been working on that tirelessly and really trying to pull all that data together. Our hope is in the future, and what we're really looking at now is really solidifying some of our contracts going forward, is having like metrics so that we can actually compare them a little differently. So this one's going to be a hefty one. Just want to let you all know that, but we hope in the future that it will be a little bit slimmer. We are looking at taking some of those statistics and of course sharing that out professionally as well in our community. So not just on our website, but being able to print some of those so that you all have them as well. All right. Any questions?
So moving on to the executive report.
Okay, so for this last month has been crazy good. There's been a lot going on. Board application updates. So we did have 7 that were approved by our commission and moved on at their last board meeting, but they have opened that back up. I believe we have 3 new applicants that will be going to the commission in December. They couldn't get it on the agenda for this time for approval to move forward. So that is still open, I believe, until Friday for people to apply. We did not host the financial committee this month, but we did have our executive and program committee, which we just wrapped up all of that information. We talked also about OST renewals. I want to let you all know we're meeting with every single one of them collaboratively. So we're getting on Zoom, we're recording it, we're having those kind of conversations with them so that they know exactly where we're at. We're talking about data, we're talking about finance, any sort of change of scope type of issues or budget changes. We want to do that all before their contracts are actually in play. If you remember when I came on in February, y'all had already approved contracts, so we had to go and do some of this stuff backwards. So we're looking at moving that forward this time and making those changes prior to contract. We talked about the annual report. So you already know where we are on that. The sole source application is another one. So that's been a typical paper like you've seen here tonight. We are actually, and Rick has put that into SAMUS. We're going to make that an automated process, but also making sure that our sole source have that same kind of information that anyone else that's applying has. But that will give us a good record of it, and they'll be able to go through and check off some of those processes around, do I actually qualify as a sole source applicant at this point? So that's not live yet, but I believe we've got it to a place where we can make that live shortly. We've been spending our time also doing a lot of that development and research on those CARE grant opportunities for micro grants, and then of course hosting that focus group with follow-ups related to that. There have been a lot of nonprofits that have come to the table, so we've met with about 5 different ones that we're not currently contracted with to learn about their services that they are providing for children. I do think that's an important part of what we do, is creating that network. We may not have to fund them, but knowing what's available, we've been able to make some really good connections. For communication and outreach, we talked about the violence group that we had, the community violence focus group. The mental health task force meeting, I got the opportunity to speak at that this past month. It was really great. We got to highlight our mental health programs. People knew about PHS for you too. They were very excited with the football team, and I told them that was all the Omega Lamplighters.
look what happens when you support your athletes, right? So, but I thought that that was a really great example, but also talking about all of our providers and how they're giving some very different things out there with our children that are meaningful in different ways. So, and how they're getting referrals from all different places. But we're part of that continuum. A lot of those are really formal mental health people in the room, and they needed to know we're part of that continuum. We've had more Touch a Truck. I mean, we're going to have to order some more sunglasses and Frisbees and footballs, because I'm going to tell you, we've been at the events. Touch a Truck, we did, or Michael did Trunk or Treat in Century for us, and then Deb, Michael, and myself got to go do Trunk or Treat at the Boys and Girls Club at Inglewood, which was a really great night. And then we're going to be going forward hosting our Parade of Providers this Thursday. We did that before, where we had everyone come together. This time we're going to be doing some professional education as well. Some of our providers had said they're dealing with challenging behaviors and need some support around that. So we've pulled in SEDNet to come in and do some training and to really help understand a lot of that process, especially when we're dealing with children with significant issues coming into our aftercare programs. So lots going on, and I know the holidays are coming up, and there's a lot of different events happening, so we'll keep you posted with those as we go.
What time is the Parade of Providers?
We're starting at 9, and we're concluding at noon on Thursday. Love for you to drop by if you are just happen to be out and about or have time. So I can't hear you.
The ECT offices is where that
Yes.
will be?
Yes, sir. And it's football themed, so if you're going to come, you need to wear, you know.
My FAMU jersey?
Okay. Well, I won't be wearing my Florida State one. I'm going to wear my ECT one. But yes, you could wear your FAMU jersey for sure. Michael will have his on, I'm sure, so. Okay, and that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Meredith, did you have anything for us? No. With that, thank you. With no further business, we are adjourning at 6:42.
If you all will notice in your packets, I do have the 2025 ECT meeting dates. Hang on to those.